It was supposed to be the most ambitious project ever attempted in human history. A single city stretching farther than the distance between New York and Philadelphia, rising taller than the Empire State Building, and made to house 9 million people, all inside a perfectly straight line cutting across the Saudi desert. This was the line, the crown jewel of NEOM, a mega project meant to prove that Saudi Arabia could leapfrog the world's greatest cities and redefine the future of urban life. Only a couple years ago, I was in Riyadh and I visited this grand, huge exhibit that was showcasing what it would look and feel like to be inside NEOM. A place with no cars, no streets, no pollution, just walkable neighborhoods stacked on top of each other and all powered entirely by renewable energy. But today, 8 years after it was announced and 3 years after the construction began, the reality on the ground looks very different.
A cash crunch may have led to a rethink on the line.
The original plan for it was supposed to be 170 kilometers. We know that there have been downsizing measures for the line.
Does this review really signal some doubt about the project's viability overall?
Billions of dollars spent, thousands of workers hired, trenches visible from space, and yet the flagship city is shrinking. Entire modules have been canceled, the airport has been paused, workers have left, and even some of the early foundations that were once supposed to support the world's largest building are now buried under the sand. But how did the most ambitious city ever imagined start collapsing before it even had its very first resident? I'm gonna break it down. NEOM isn't just the line, it's a massive region, about the size of Belgium, carved out of northwest Saudi Arabia. The government's plan was to populate it with a collection of futuristic cities and districts, each with its own identity. The line was the icon, the 170-kilometer skyscraper city. Trojena was the most unusual, a desert ski resort high in the mountains, which Saudi Arabia even planned to use to host the 2029 Asian Winter Games. Oxagon was a proposed floating industrial city. Imagine an octagon-shaped port that looked like something out of Blade Runner. And Sindala was the Red Sea luxury island meant to attract super yachts and the global elite. And surrounding these were proposals for high-tech agricultural zones, business districts, biotech labs, film production hubs, and entire cognitive cities that would be run by artificial intelligence. The pitch here was clear. NEOM would be the world's first truly new civilization. Not an upgraded version of Dubai, not a mega resort, but a clean slate, a new model for how millions and millions of people could live, work, travel. For Saudi Arabia, this wasn't just a real estate project. It was a national branding project. A declaration that the country was transforming from an oil state into a global center of innovation and ambition. And the line would be proof of all this. From the outside, though, the line didn't look real. Renderings showed a thin mirror slicing through the desert. Inside, suspend walkways, hanging gardens, drones, driverless pods, a super efficient transit system, and a 20-minute end-to-end commute, even though the city literally stretched farther than entire countries. But in 2023, the Discovery Channel put out a documentary, and this was actually funded and produced by Saudi Arabia. And watching it, all of a sudden everything felt believable. While critics said the line was impossible,
they say in a lot of projects that happen in Saudi Arabia, it can be done. This is very ambitious. They can't keep saying that, and we can't keep proving them wrong.
And for a while, it looked like they might. Back in 2021, NEOM executives were told the budget for the line was $1.6 trillion. By the following spring, an internal estimate revised that number to $4.5 trillion, roughly the size of Germany's entire annual economy. But money wasn't the problem. Saudi Arabia's public investment fund is one of the richest sovereign wealth funds in the world, and it's chaired by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And it was prepared to spend whatever it took to make this happen. Tens of thousands of employees arrived. Architects, engineers, designers, planners, construction managers. Many were paid Silicon Valley level salaries. Others joined just because they wanted to work on the most ambitious project ever attempted in human history. They slept in desert worker camps, they shared communal dining halls, and worked on blueprints that, if built, would be visible from the International Space Station. Inside the line, they planned a light rail system with a stop every 150 meters, the most dense transit grid in history. And on on the top deck, you would see buses, autonomous pods, and pedestrian boulevards that were connected by grand staircases. And because the city was vertical, even basic systems like sewage, firefighting, mail delivery, or trash removal, that all had to be rethought and reinvented from scratch. The scale was absurd. One former contractor said that just building the first 20 modules of the line would actually require more cement per year than France produces in an entire year. And yet somehow the team kept going. Because this wasn't a normal job, this was history in the making. By 2023, the desert was unrecognizable. The line's foundations, which are likely the largest piles ever laid by humans, were hammered deep into the earth, and massive trenches, perfectly straight and stretching for almost 150 kilometers, were dug for the high-speed rail spine. A new international airport began construction at the eastern end of the line, which would have 5 runways, capacity for 100 million passengers a year. I mean, one runway was planned specifically for supersonic jets. But then it all started to slow. I want to take a quick break to thank today's sponsor, Raycon. I've been seeing more and more people use this innovative earbud design, and probably for good reason. See, a lot of times I'm going for a run or just walking and somebody's talking or a car passes by and I'm just completely cut off because of my headphones. And to be honest, it makes me feel a little bit uneasy and unsafe to not be aware of the world and environment around me. But these right here, they just sit outside of your ear canal so you're aware of the space around you, unlike traditional earbuds. I've been using these for a couple weeks now, listening to music, my podcast when I'm out for a run, and honestly, they are a game changer. One funny use case is I was talking to a barista at the coffee shop in the morning and I was able to have a full conversation without having to remove the earbud. They're super lightweight with crystal clear sound and way more affordable than other brands on the market. You get up to 36 hours of battery life with the case, which is amazing. And get this, they have a 30-day happiness guarantee. Use the link in my description, which will get you up to 30% off all their audio products, and it also helps support this channel, which I really appreciate. The link is buyraycon.com/UptinOpen. And now, back to the video. Inside NEOM headquarters, a mood shift began. Oil prices softened, foreign investors weren't committing the way that Saudi Arabia had hoped and planned for, and the public investment fund, after years of aggressive spending, started facing pressure to actually deliver returns. And this is when cost-cutting began. Quietly at first,
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's dream project may have hit a roadblock.
The line was originally consisting of 20 modules, then it dropped to 12, then 7, then 4, and by the end of 2023, 3 modules. One senior construction manager said that when they reached 3 modules, it became mathematically impossible to attract outside investors because you needed at least 7 modules for this whole thing to work, because that would be around 300 to 500,000 residents. And that was the number you needed to create somewhat of a critical mass and make this city actually feel and be like a city. And below 7 modules, well, he said it's just uninvestable. And that's when he became convinced that the line just would not be fully built.
Saudi Arabia has asked consulting firms to conduct a strategic review of its plans for building NEOM's development project.
In the middle of 2023, an internal audit started under the codename Project Moon, and it was meant to figure out how the budget had exploded and why the schedule kept slipping. The team quickly discovered that nobody was giving straight answers. Costs were hidden, timelines were overly optimistic, and the person leading the audit became so frustrated that he even eventually quit. And when senior staff presented their concerns to the NEOM board, which included MBS himself, those concerns were reportedly dismissed. Meanwhile, construction managers were asking some basic but kind of devastating questions. Where would the 9 million residents come from? Could housing be built quickly enough? Would importing this much material overheat the Saudi economy? What if oil prices crash? Did Saudi Arabia even have the technical expertise required to make this happen? The deeper they dug, the worse the math looked. Today, after at least $50 billion, the desert shows the scars of ambition. Construction across NEOM has slowed dramatically. Most of the original grand plans have been paused or scaled back. Work on the high-speed trail and the new airport appears to have stopped or been shelved, and many of the line's original modules have been scrapped. Only a handful are still under development. Meanwhile, Trojena, that mountain resort, remains one of the few parts still moving ahead at a relative pace, and some of the most ambitious ambitious features seen in early renderings are now quietly off the table. But it's still unclear if every promised skyscraper or landmark has been officially canceled. But here's the strange part to all of this. Even as the line collapses on paper, NEOM may have somewhat succeeded in its goals here. See, not in building the world's greatest city, obviously, but in something else. Before NEOM, Saudi Arabia was associated globally with things like oil, religious conservatism, and geopolitical conflicts. But today, when people hear Saudi Arabia, some might actually think differently. Futuristic, ambitious, modern, visionary, sci-fi cities, high-tech mega projects, youthful energy, and massive transformation. NEOM is here to sort of help reshape Saudi Arabia's brand and its reputation, even if the construction couldn't keep up. It sparked global conversations, it attracted top talent, it changed how investors even talked about the country, it's brought in tourism, it's positioned Saudi Arabia as a player in tech, sports, and mega infrastructure. And so the city may never exist as planned, but in terms of branding, NEOM has kind of achieved some good things here. So what will happen now? The honest answer is, well, the line will become a much smaller, much simpler, much more realistic version of the original version. Maybe 3 modules, maybe a couple of kilometers, but maybe a symbolic proof of concept that still shows a new way of living. But the story isn't over. Saudi Arabia still has the money, it still has the ambition, and it still believes, even publicly, that NEOM is a multi-generational project that will redefine urban life. Maybe not in 2030, maybe not in 2040, but maybe someday. So the question is now whether investors, residents, and even Saudis themselves can still believe in this dream that is NEOM. Let me know your thoughts below, and in the meantime, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next one.